Yep.
Because I will tell you, most agents, what they advertise, even in their farming pieces, door to door, whatever, in email, is sold in X number of days above asking.
Yep.
Multiple offers.
Yep.
That's the. So I want to encourage you to say, we went in and staged on this day. We had many different photo shoots. We spent this much time doing repairs. Here is the protocol we did to get top dollar for this home. And it's a case study for the work that you do.
So this morning we're going to be discussing how to get more listings.
Yes.
Because the agents out there have been struggling with getting contracts through for buyers. Things are super competitive in most of our markets. So I'm constantly being asked, and I think you're probably fielding this question as well. Hey, it's really hard with buyers right now. I'd rather be on the other side and have 15 contracts picked through as a listing agent. And when that listing agreement gets signed, it's basically, a paycheck, right? So let's talk about ways to get more listings. I kind of started off a little intro there. What do you have to add as we get into it?
I was thinking we should just jump in.
Let's do it.
We always start with mindset, like believe that you can, but let's just jump in and give some really practical tips for getting listings.
So when we were discussing, when we were preparing for this show earlier, I said, number one is still, have you called your people, right? And the number of times that I ask agents, has everybody that you know heard from you by phone in the last 90 days? I think now one time I've gotten a yes. Generally, the answer is no.
Great.
So I think it's important to start there. And I realize that picking up the phone and calling clients can be something that we are afraid to do. But as I just told a group of agents that I coached just this morning, with rates as low as they are, you have a reason to call.
Yep.
You have a reason to call, right? And with a survey that Eyerusalem discussed just a few minutes ago, where half the sellers believe that it's a bad time to sell, you have a reason to call, right? Because they don't understand that now is a great time to sell. And perhaps they're thinking COVID, buyers aren't out there, people are sequestered, whatever, right? Whatever their thinking is, it's just not factual thinking. So I think that now is a great time to pick up the phone and be in touch with our people and be talking about the market. And frankly, if you just call them and check in with them, they're going to ask you how the market is anyway, because half of them clearly think that it's shut down.
Right.
So that is always my number one. And I know that you and I are constantly preaching that, call your clients, call your clients, call your clients. And people get tired of hearing about it. But we know that there's money being left on the table because agents are not talking to the people who already know them, like them, and trust them.
Right. I just want to encourage everyone listening to hear us out and then really focus. Because I think you're right, Charlie. I think if this could be a live interaction with hundreds of agents, they would say, oh, you're right. I would love to have more listings. Okay, great. I'm glad you admitted that.
Right.
How much time are you willing to spend generating listings this week? Hesitation, right? So with all the ideas we're going to offer, some of them are going to inspire you, some of them are going to intimidate you, but you may leave saying, you know what, overall, I'm just too busy and I can't. So I think it's important that you decide if this matters enough to you that you will focus on it. Because if you took the first one that we've offered, call your sphere of influence, call everyone you have contact information for, and be proactive.
Right.
Most of us have neglected the additions to our database, and there are all kinds of people that we actually know who know us that we're not in communication with, and we aren't keeping track of them in our database. So if you would take a couple of hours to put everybody in, go through your phone, ask every single person you have a phone number for. This could apply to cold leads. Were you thinking of selling your house this year? Listen,
right.
It's the easiest script. Yes, no. No, I don't want to. Good for you. Moving's hard.
Right. So 10% of people who know us, like us, and trust us should be buying, selling, or referring every year. And if you know 200 people, you should have had about 10 deals under your belt year to date from them.
Right.
And if you're only at 5, you've got holes in your system, right? And we're not here to talk about, the system around sphere of influence. We've talked about it before. If people want to go to theallegianceway.com, click on the daily dose. We have 2 different resources there around sphere of influence and checking that out, and way to segment your database and ways to be in touch with your database. So, start there. But if you really want to make it a painful exercise, figure out. I did this with a coaching client yesterday. He's left $100,000 on the table year to date because he's not stayed in touch with his database at an appropriate level. That is his share. The share for his team is another $100,000.
Wow.
And we used very conservative numbers.
Yeah.
So it's probably more than that. So what we're going to be focused on for the next few months.
Yeah.
Right? So doing a little bit of math, figuring out where your holes are, I think is important. And if you can get some listings from this, fantastic, right? And then hopefully you'll pick up some buyers too, because we all know that we said forever, since the dawn of time, listing agents control the market. And what does that mean? It means that it's really hard to have a successful retail shop if you have no inventory. I mean, if you're in the mall, right, you're comfortable, you got your mask on, you're in the mall, you look over, there's a store that's Pottery Barn, it's open, you look in there, but there's no furniture. There's nothing in there. There's people, there's workers, but there's no furniture. That's you as a realtor if you don't have a listing.
Right.
Honestly, right? If you have furniture or listings, I'm going to walk into your store. Interesting, right? The more furniture you have, the more looky-loos you're going to get, right? And they're leads. It's no different for Pottery Barn. I'm a lead walking in. I might be there to browse or to buy or to buy a sofa, or maybe I'm thinking about redecorating next year. It's no different than an open house if you think about it, right? So those with the listings control the market. So number 1, have you called your people? Number 2, we just talked about this. I don't know if it was Monday or it might have been last week. Annual home value reports. Sending them. I'm an advocate for using RPR reports. You just narrpr.com. You click on it. You put in the address. You print the 30-page report. You mail it out. Then you call. Hey, did you get my annual home value report? Right? There's your script.
Yep.
There's your script. Right?
Yep.
So you want to send down an appropriate number per week that you have time to follow up the next week with them. All of the instructions for this project are available at theallegianceway.com. Click on Get More Sellers. And it's all right there. You just scroll down to Annual Home Value Report, and it's all right there. So sending those at least once a year, you could send it. I've got clients that send it twice a year, right? Because they don't like to pick up the phone. So the more mail they send, the easier it is to pick up the phone. And then I know that you have either clients or associates of yours that they do this for farms. They do this around open houses, I believe, right? So what do you have to add to annual home value reports, if anything?
Well, again, focus will take you everywhere. So if you choose this one, I would encourage you to get good at it, get fast at it. Don't do one here and one there, because it'll just slow you down and it'll make it laborious. So the friends of mine who really make this a huge part of their business and generate a lot of come list me calls, do them in batches, right? They just decide that they're getting a bunch of them out. They do a bunch of them and they do them all at once. Whether it's being delivered by mail in a beautiful envelope with a beautiful label so it looks as enticing and attractive as it is, or leaving it on the front porch. They don't just email a link, right? This is supposed to be something special, something attractive. It gets left out on the coffee table. And so that would be my recommendation there, is practice, get good at pulling the reports that you think are attractive to the consumer. A custom cover is ideal. You can even grab a photo off of Google Earth or something of the property, make it personalized, make it cool. And do as many of those as possible. And then follow up with a call. Follow up with a call and ask, do you have any questions about this? Was this helpful to you? Just be in community. The truth of the matter is, we do not force people to move for a living. I think a lot of people get nervous about picking up the phone because they think, oh, well, I don't want to be pushy. And I say, please don't. Please don't, right? We are there to provide quality service, quality consultation, quality insight around negotiating strategies for buying and selling in competitive markets when people are ready. So
Right.
what you need to do is call and see, are they ready?
No, I like it. And again, we're mailing these. These are not going as a link in an email that gets lost, goes into spam, et cetera, et cetera. Don't be lazy, print them and mail them out. The next two are common, but they scare people. For sale by owners and expireds. Let's start with for sale by owners.
Well, there are quite a few different scripts, and interesting, Charlie, I feel like we haven't created any sort of a FSBO module that you can download from the allegianceway.com. Maybe that's next. But the truth is these are all numbers games, right? So for sale by owner, some of them may not be realistic. And so you just need to understand that. I know an agent who texts every single FSBO he can find contact information for, but he vets them to see if they're interested in paying a co-op agent. If they say no, they're not, he just doesn't bother to argue with them about being their listing agent. That's
right.
That's his vetting process to decide if they're worth his time. Now, maybe you would be more tenacious than that and really want to get in there and call and say, I'd love to see your property. I have buyers. This is the script that we most use. I actually love the idea of seeing as many FSBOs as possible and keeping an inventory, but you have to think about, depending on the pace of your market, if that house is going to sell by Saturday, regardless of who lists it, you may not want to put a ton of time into trying to get them to work with you. And I'm not saying, let's clarify, I believe we are worth our pay. If a FSBO says to me that they don't want to work with me, that they can put a sign on their fence and sell it without help, that's absolutely true. And I would tell them that. In my market, I would say, yes, that's accurate. The thing that they aren't appreciating is that when homes are really, really positioned well and marketed well, for most of us, they're getting well above recent comps. Now, it's hard to say I priced it perfectly, so it got more than it was worth, right? Pricing is not a perfect science, but when you look at 30 days worth of comps and you price it right there or a little above, and it gets 20 more than that, that's strong. And exposing properties to the maximum of the market will get them that money. So I would be prepared to share that story. But the simple answer is you don't have to pay for lists. You could go on Zillow and find phone numbers to call, and there are plenty of scripts. Just Google them and make it simple. Just say, how soon do you want to be moved, and chat to people.
Yep. So Zillow.com, check out for sale by owners there. Fizber, F-I-Z-B-E-R, Fizber.com. You can go there as well. We do have a very interesting article on the allegianceway.com. Click on Get More Sellers. There was a study done a few years ago. This was not done by NAR. It was done, at some university. And it basically showed that FSBO sellers net about 2.5% less than those that go with a realtor. Interesting. So most for sale by owners are going to be paying a co-op agent anyway. Those that tend to go it alone net less, or they net the same as if they were paying a realtor, yet they have to do all of the work. That is a very interesting article that could be printed, dropped off, printed and mailed. So check that out on the allegianceway.com. But no, I agree with your or with the agent in your office that, vets by, are you willing to pay a co-op agent? If the answer is no, then you know that this is, it's like hitting a brick wall and it's probably time to pivot and move to the next one. So then probably the most intimidating lead source that we're going to talk about today is expireds. And I always tell people that, I come across a lot of people that just want to dabble in this. Just want to dip their toe in the water and try it. I guess you can try it, but you need to be committed to getting rejected, right? Having many conversations every day, because the reality is not only are you going up against people who may be sick of realtors, had a bad experience, changed their mind, whatever, the consumer, you're also going up against realtors who do this for a living.
Sure.
And they know their scripts, their dialogues, and their objection handlers better than you if you're just starting out, because this is how they feed their family and they take it very seriously. And they're on the phone every morning, they're booking appointments. This is the lead source that they've chosen. So I just ask folks that I talk to that, if this is something that you're going to commit to, you need to commit to it. You need to know what you're getting into, commit to a Red X, a Vulcan 7, a Land Voice, an Espresso Agent, right? A way to get the phone numbers and the list of expireds, and then you're committed to making those calls relentlessly. It's not one call and you're done. And an easier way to start might be who expired 6 months ago? Have they relisted, right? They're not getting calls every day. If you're going to call on August 1st and you're going to be the 56th realtor to call that person at 8:45 in the morning, that's tough. It's hard. You just need to be super committed. And I think you need to have a really strong mindset around that, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of rejection. And I'm not here to tell people not to do it. I just think you need to be prepared. You need to have some role play partners. You need to get good before you pick up the phone, would be my suggestion. You need to be committed. It's not, I'm going to buy Vulcan and try it for a day and then continue to pay for Vulcan for 6 months and then realize that I'm still paying for Vulcan and then get rid of it.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot.
It really does. And I want to speak to that, Charlie, because I want everyone to understand that doing this job well actually is a lot of work. And I don't know that expireds are so different. I think it depends on your personality.
Yes.
As whether you see expireds as particularly daunting as opposed to other things. Very analytical type agents find expireds more appealing than talking to their own friends and past clients. Right. So I think everything that you said, Charlie, is absolutely right. That commitment to becoming good at it is absolutely vital. And so if you say, this is the one I'm gonna crush, give yourself a 90-day sprint to become obsessed with this source of business. We're a little off topic here, but this is going to help you, because we can give you lots of ideas and you can ignore us. And watching this show will have done you no good. So if you decide that there is an opportunity in your market for expireds, and that's the first thing you need to check. My market, there's not a lot of opportunity. There are so few expireds week to week that if I were to spend a significant amount of time growing my skill, I would have very few opportunities to practice that skill. So make sure there's opportunity, and then look for some of those scripts, some of those systems, and don't overthink it. Read the script out loud to yourself. Read it to your cat. Practice on people. Don't overthink that part either. You just got to get in there and just say, are you still thinking of selling your house? They yell at you. They don't. They talk to you. They don't. It doesn't matter. It's a simple script.
Yes, agreed.
Selling your house this year. Wow, do we have opportunity to get top dollar for homes? If you're still interested in moving, tell me about that. Call. I want everyone to know that this job is harder than most people think going in. So please don't be afraid of hard work.
I like it. Let's pivot over to buyer needs, AKA the Yikes campaign. Why don't you tell us what that is?
Well, the origin of the Yikes campaign was, I showed Susie houses in this neighborhood. We missed out. We were bidding on the one on Gold Street. It had multiple offers and we lost out. And poor Susie still wants to live in this neighborhood. Yikes, we missed out, right? If you don't have that exact scenario, you can come up with anything similar. And I've done this. I've door knocked. Door knocking is probably not a good idea right now, but I door knocked with a flyer with a buyer need, and I was very clear with what the buyer need was. It was completely sincere. I didn't make up the buyers. And I just said, this is what they're looking for. Now, a pro tip, I did not make it so niche-y as to, like, the description of the property was not so tight that it only applied to maybe 10% of the houses in the neighborhood. It basically met their needs and applied to pretty much every house there. And we all know that buyers will tell you they need one house and then they'll be flexible depending on the location. So I wouldn't be overly specific, but I would be specific enough to make it intriguing, and then talk to people.
Yeah, I think specificity in your story can be important. Otherwise, they think you're making the whole thing up, right? The more vague you are in your story, the more likely it is to think that you're just fishing for listings.
Well, and we're all
go ahead.
We're all getting postcards from "I want to buy your house, I promise" in this fake handwriting.
Yes.
So don't make it look like more of that. Mine was very clear. It said Dave and Carol are downsizing from Glen Eagle. They really want to live in the Pulpit Rock area. I've showed them every house currently available, and none of them meet their needs. Do you know anyone who's planning to sell in the next 3 months? That was real.
Yep.
Yeah, very compelling.
I like it. Perfect. Farming. This is a whole other topic, right? But it is a way to get listings. It's generally a long-term play to get listings. What do we want to say about that without turning the rest of our time into a farming show?
Well, farming is a long-term thing, so it needs to be a different show. But if you want to go after a neighborhood for listings, I would just sort of call that door knocking. And if you can't go door to door, we'd have to find a different way. I don't know that mailing something is going to get you listings. So I would say you'd have to really, really be proactive. And I'm not quite sure, Charlie, what that would look like. You can buy phone numbers and call neighborhoods depending on your jurisdiction or your state. I would be as direct as possible with the ask. The thing of it is, Charlie, though, I think a lot of agents try to be really creative to get out of doing the simplest thing, which is talking to people they already have contact information for.
Yes.
So in order to get out of that, they'll look for some sort of a creative hack. Farming really is a long-term game. If you send 2 months worth of postcards in a row, I don't expect you to get a good return. So don't start and then tell us it didn't work, because I wouldn't recommend that at all. I don't know. What would you say about farming? Like, if you're not currently farming.
So I think the buyer needs the X campaign is good. And if it's going into a neighborhood that you do want to start to farm, even better. But yeah, I think farming is a different show. It's not going to be a way that you're going to get listings tomorrow.
No.
Do I think most agents should have a farm? Absolutely.
Sure, right.
It's just super important, and that's something that we can cover in future shows. You mentioned circle dialing. A resource for that is Cole Realty Resource. You have to check the do not call list. I think that Cole does that for you, but you cannot call people that are on the do not call list. And there's no, I know that there's some agents out there that do it and they run the risk, but I assure you there are lawyers that make a living waiting for you to call them. I am not kidding. And if you are using an automated dialer, that is where you get into real trouble, right? Sure. They can hit you with a class action lawsuit, and Google it. There are literally lawyers that are waiting for realtors to call, and be very careful if you're using some sort of a dialer. So circle dialing using your cell phone number, that works for some agents. I think you and I both know a coach that has done really well with circle dialing around new listings. Jason Ferris is his name. He's had lots of success with that. He actually spoke to the associates at RE/MAX Allegiance a couple years ago and told that story. He has a strategy around that, but that strategy is also around new listings. That is how he employs it. I think that calling, circle dialing is, I just think that there's better ways that you can get a listing now than playing the dartboard game of circle dialing.
Right. Let's talk about best ways, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Go for the low-hanging fruit, right? Call everyone you actually have contact information for and ask, are you interested in selling your house this year yet next year? Right. Tell me about that. And don't twist their arm. Don't ever try to convince somebody to move when they say, no, thank you, I love my home. Say, great. So that's the easiest way to not be pushy. Support people in not wanting to move. But 10%, 7% of all people will move. So you just need to talk to enough of them that you'll find the ones that are getting ready to. I think last tip I will share is reaching beyond the people who already know, like, and trust you, beyond the database of names and numbers you already have, is social media. And when you post something called case studies, you could create a bulleted list of things that you do to get homes sold. And it probably won't be too long before some agent in your marketplace rips off this idea. Yep. Because I will tell you, most agents, what they advertise, even in their farming pieces, door to door, whatever, in email, is sold in X number of days above asking.
Yep.
Multiple offers.
Yep.
That's the. So I want to encourage you to say, we went in and staged on this day. We had many different photo shoots. We spent this much time doing repairs. Here is the protocol we did to get top dollar for this home. And it's a case study for the work that you do. I would just encourage you to do something like that to get eyeballs. Don't do a one-off. If you're not doing social media and do a single ad, I don't think that will be successful. Come up with a series of touches, do something interesting every single day, and get eyeballs.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And those of you that want to see a quasi case study that we turned into a just sold postcard, theallegianceway.com, click on Get More Sellers, click on Just Sold Postcard, because it tells the story of what the agent did to get the property sold. A last quick tip, online seller seminars, right? Advertising, people that are looking to downsize. I have personal coaching clients that have had good luck with this when it comes to senior seminars wanting to downsize and what that looks like. So that is something else to look into, and we can probably talk about that on a future show. But we are running a little bit over time. So with that, good to see you as usual, Amy. Our next topic coming up on Friday is creating a buyer negotiation strategy and setting expectations with buyers before they find themselves in a competitive situation.
That's right.
So that is going to be a great topic on Friday. So we covered today about how to get more listings, and Friday we're going to talk about the reality of how to deal with the buyers that we already have. So with that, I hope you have a great rest of the day. Amy, we will talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye, everybody.